everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. Welcome back. We have another terrific show for you this week, full of titles that I'm really excited to talk about, including some of my favorite labels such as the Criterion Collection, Eureka Entertainment, Shout Studios, Deaf Crocodile, Kino Classics. We have something from all sides of the spectrum that I'm really excited to dig into, including a couple of really exciting 4K upgrades. And I'll start off with one of those from our friends at Universal. One that I was really excited to revisit was the 4K Ultra HD debut of the 40-Year-Old Virgin in honor of its 20th anniversary. This is the Steelbook version. Here's the back kind of J card here. But this has been a movie that's been in dire need of an upgrade, because whenever the previous Blu-ray was released near the beginning of the format, it is one of the more displeasing looking Blu-rays that I've ever seen in terms of the digital processing that was applied. It just looked horrendous, and I think fans of this movie have really been kind of in dire straits ever since that release, and they're hoping that something new could come out. And it's finally corrected itself, but I do want to note that old horrendous disc is included in this. So if you're hoping for a new upgrade on the Blu-ray format, you're not going to get so lucky. But for the 4K, it is a major upgrade. But just really quickly for the story, as with most of my titles, I'll try not to go too deep into anything. I'll try to just give the bare bones of what you need to know to get you what you a good determination on if these releases are worth picking up. But if you need a more in-depth analysis, make sure to go to GeekVibesNation.com, where I'll do a more thorough written review. But in terms of this movie, this was one that I saw back in its theatrical run, and I've enjoyed it ever since. It's about a man. It's a 40-year-old virgin. It's about a man who has not lost his virginity. Just after all these years, he just kind of kept not executing it like he hoped it would, and just kind of got away from him. And now that his coworkers at kind of like a Best Buy Circuit City stand-in, once they find out, they kind of make it their mission to get him laid. And in the midst of them trying to set him up, he starts to actually fall for a woman played by Catherine Keener here, who he meets and kind of strikes off like a nice relationship with. So just seeing his journey through tons of different people giving him bad advice, and just how that all comes back. It's hilarious. There are some really dated aspects to this in terms of the humor that may be a little bit insensitive, but it is still very funny, and I found myself laughing my ass off and still really enjoying this. And this was really what kicked off Judd Apatow as like a big director and stuff, and then I think this is still among his strongest works. And great Steve Carell performance. The ensemble's amazing, with like Paul Rudd, Seth Rogen, Elizabeth Banks, Jane Lynch, Romany Malco, just so many funny people in here. And I'm glad that this got the 4K upgrade. So the new 4K remaster in Dolby Vision. It is not going to be like a demo-worthy presentation in terms of like it looking like crystal clear and everything, but in terms of what this movie should look like for the time that it was made, it looks really nice. It has like a semi-softer appearance than maybe you may want, but I think it's pretty accurate to kind of how it was shot. And so it looks really good, and it's definitely a huge upgrade from the old Blu-ray release. It is like a night and day, in my opinion, upgrade from that old digitally processed release. But this is more organic. You have the natural film grain and all that kind of stuff. Really bold colors with the Dolby Vision that really look really nice. I just want to just kind of caution people that if they're going to this for like a crystal like clear crisp image, you're not going to get like in unbelievable detail and stuff. Like you're going to get really nice detail with like the film grain that is unlocked and the lack of digital processing. but it's not going to look like a movie that's like was shot yesterday or anything. Like it's just keep your expectations in check. It's a really, really good disc and a huge upgrade. But just visually, I wouldn't say it's demo material, but it is really good. The Atmos track is really nice as well, nice and expansive. It doesn't go overboard and like expanding things out to additional channels, but it makes sense with like the musical expansion and just certain details, like some more club scenes and stuff. Things feel a little bit more full, and like there's a lot like more like crowd noise and stuff that really just makes you feel a little bit more immersed into this action. And then you also the original Blu-rays included, so you get all the legacy special features and stuff, including making of featurette, various deleted scenes, lots of deleted scenes, gag reel, featurettes and stuff. But on the new disc, you get the 20th anniversary reunion that was held in Los Angeles, which has like Judd Apatow, Steve Carell, Jane Lynch, Catherine Keener, Kat Dennings, and a couple other people. Runs about 49 minutes, and that's really, really fun to have a lot of these key players revisit this, and I think it's a really great addition. Other than that, you just have all your legacy features like I told you about, including the commentary track. So if you are a fan of this movie, this is definitely the best it has looked on home entertainment. Like I said, that old release was trash. But make sure if you're a fan to upgrade to this 4K release, either the Steelbook or there's a regular standard like slipcover version in a normal case if you prefer that. But I do quite like this Steelbook. It's quite nice. So pick your poison, but if you're a fan, you definitely need to own this on 4K. Which is something I can say about the next release. I did not actually own this on Blu-ray previously. I was still stuck on DVD for this one. So this is a huge upgrade for me, but it is from Sony and is the 50th anniversary. We're stuck on the anniversaries and I love it. 50th anniversary of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. In my opinion, one of the kind of standout comedies of all time. It is definitely one of the most quoted around my house and everything, and it is one that I've revisited several times. The last time I had seen it was maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, whenever I went to a live screening of it with a John Cleese Q&A afterwards, which was a lot of fun. I've seen this several times, and at home this is definitely the best way to own it. This has the classic Monty Python tale, which is kind of ridiculous in a good way, of just King Arthur gathering up men to search for the Holy Grail, and all the kind of vignette comedic sketches that happen that just are some of the funniest things. They still make me laugh no matter how many times I've seen it. And comparing it to the Blu-ray that's in here, which was previously released by Sony, this is a really nice upgrade. That release, I believe, was also from a 4K restoration. So you're not going to have such of a night and day look as the 40-year-old virgin, just because the regular Blu-ray was already looking very nice. But I can say this new 4K restoration in Dolby Vision is a nice uptick. You get a more natural film grain and is resolved quite nicely. There's no like clumping or just splotching or anything like that. There's no damage or dirt or anything like that. Everything looks very natural to its intended very grainy state, but it looks very nice, and you get a lot of detail within these kind of settings and costumes and all that. All like whenever the like kind of the poor folk are building like mud piles and stuff, you can kind of see all the kind of like the little facets of like their little clods of mud and everything. It's a ridiculous movie, but it looks gorgeous on 4K, and the Dolby Vision looks very nice as well, with all the landscapes and everything. Any kind of like special effects shots or anything in terms of like inserted shots or anything like that are kind of blended in quite nicely. and all the like the cartoons and stuff, like some of the interstitials and stuff, those also resolve quite well. And this has a new Dolby Atmos track that it sounds really nice, but more importantly, you have the original 2.0 track and a 5.1 track as well. So if you want the original mono, you have that. If you want something more tech forward and like more expansive for your audio system, you have the Atmos track, which renders quite well. So sounds really great with options. Video looks really good as well. You have the old disc full of special features, including 2 different commentary tracks, a Q&A, and tons of featurettes. On the new disc, you get a VHS version of the movie, which runs about like 45 seconds less than the theatrical. It's billed as like nearly the theatrical version. I kind of spot checked this. It's in HD and it looks good. I couldn't really tell a huge difference. Like it's only 45 seconds. To me, I could have been just kind of imagining things. It seems like some of the jokes were kind of like sped up a little bit in terms of the comedic timing, and I'm not sure if that's just like me inventing things and trying to find something. I know that there was at one point a added like kind of burst to, I believe, the Sir Robin song. That might account for the difference between the 4K version and the VHS version. But it is kind of just, it's fun to have just a different option that, however minute the differences may be, it's just another option that Sony threw on just for fans. But also you have a new 15-minute featurette of people just kind of reflecting on the legacy of the film and how much they love it, and just recounting fun stories about their love for the film. And if you've like listened to a comedy podcast in the last decade, like on Earwolf or anything, or Comedy Bang Bang or anything, like pretty much everyone you could think of is included in this. You have like Scott Aukerman, you have Paul F. Tompkins, you have Taran Killam. You got a wide range of people from kind of like that kind of comedy community that I really appreciate their presence. And I think you would like Craig Ferguson's there. He has a really nice story about sharing this film with his son, and his son gets on the Zoom as well. There's a lot of great anecdotes packed into this featurette, and I think it's really cool. And so I wish it could have been a little bit longer and a little bit more substantive, but they have so many people packed on here that you do get very brief anecdotes, but it's good to see how many people were on this. In terms of if this is an upgrade, this is definitely an upgrade for the Holy Grail fans. I've been waiting for Monty Python to continue getting 4K upgrades after The Meaning of Life was upgraded by Universal a couple of years ago. So hopefully Life of Brian is right around the corner. But Holy Grail, it's one of my favorites, and I think they treated this very well. Only available in this 50th anniversary steelbook form. But if you're a fan, definitely worth picking up, because it is the ultimate presentation of this one. Now I'm going to go to a trio of Deaf Crocodile titles, a couple of which I'm not going to go in too much depth because I've actually covered them on this show before, but there are some new versions in terms of the packaging aesthetics, which I'll focus on a little bit more, but I'll still kind of give you an overview for newcomers. If you want a more substantive story deep dive on some of these, look at my written review, and I'll link back to one of my previous videos on that one. But the first of which is getting a limited edition slipcover through Deaf Crocodile's website, is Bubble Bath. So these are new releases, new slipcovers that were presented during their Ocean Distribution Vinegar Syndrome days. They are now being re-released in these new Skinovo cases that match their current output, and so if you're just want kind of a uniform shelf, or you just haven't gotten these before, you can either repurchase or get these titles once again in these new forms, with new original artwork as well, which is really cool. But you have like kind of the same booklet that came before as well. This is a real kind of psychedelic journey about like musical journey about a man who is on the verge of getting married, who bursts into the apartment of one of his fiance's friends, and they kind of go on like a musical psychedelic journey through their emotions and their anxieties and fears and stuff. It's really wild stuff, but it's really cool, and I liked it quite a bit. And so I'm glad to have this new gorgeous packaging, but you still get the previous. It was from a restoration from the Hungary National Film Institute, and it's a really gorgeous presentation of the original animation. Everything is left natural looking and looks very, very good. Sounds great as well, and it has the commentary track, 5 animated shorts, an interview, and a piece on the restoration. So this was released in the beginning of 2024. But it is now being re-released in a limited batch of these new slipcovers. I believe that's a limit to 300. So if you're new into Deaf Crocodile or want to kind of fill out like your shelf in like on a uniform fashion, get these new slipcovers. The Bubble Bath is the first of which I'm talking about. My next title I haven't talked about on the show before, so I'll go a little bit more into depth in this one, and that is The Assassin of the Tsar. So this is a really nice slipcover here, and what I really like about their slipcovers is they're pretty thick. This isn't just kind of like a half-assed effort. They're really nice slipcovers, but here's the original artwork underneath of a movie starring Malcolm McDowell. This one's pretty trippy as well. It takes place in a mental institution. Malcolm McDowell is a patient who claims to have killed 2 different czars in Russia. I'm not huge on Russian history, but I believe is Tsar Nicholas II and Tsar Alexander II. So Alexander II was in 1881 and Nicholas II was in 1918. So just by virtue of like when the film takes place and when these assassinations occurred, this just could not be true. But the way the movie presents it, you're left questioning whether this person is sane, whether they are kind of delusional, or they actually are some kind of reincarnation of someone who killed these different rulers. And the psychiatrist who's kind of playing along, and then kind of reality starts to kind of bend a little bit in terms of like, the psychiatrist starts to envision himself in kind of different roles, and then actors are playing different roles, and then McDowell is playing maybe up to 3 different people. There's a lot going on here in terms of like Russian history and the nature of the mind's elasticity and what is actually can like be perceived and what is going on. I found myself really kind of enlightened a lot more upon exploring the special features. One thing I found especially handy is, for those who have not listened to it, the Deaf Crocodile podcast is a rich reservoir of information in terms of hearing directly from the people involved with Deaf Crocodile, but also they have a large portion of their catalog's commentaries released as podcasts. So if you're not someone who has a lot of time to just sit around and listen to podcasts, they make it easy on you to listen on the go, which is what I actually did for this commentary track while I was like at my day job, and just like getting kind of the lowdown on a lot of like Russian history that I'm personally not as like educated on. And just it really helped me kind of put into context a lot of what is going on in this movie that I was kind of a little bit murky on, and then getting a little bit more with like the accompanying extras along with the commentary track. All that just came together that just made me really excited to rewatch this in the near future, just now with the added context, because what Malcolm McDowell is doing here is very like interesting in the way he really believed in this project and really pretty much almost worked for nothing in order to like, and when he believes in something, he would like kind of just do it for the sake of art. And like, of course, like there were paycheck movies occasionally, but whenever he believed in something, he like kind of would put his all in it. And this is definitely one of those. And you can tell in like the nearly hour-long interview that accompanies this, how much he really cares about this movie and wishes that it had a higher platform, which is what Deaf Crocodile's release achieved. It's still not the most well-known title, but I hope it is one that people will give it a chance. The main version on this disc is the English language version, but there is also a Russian language version. So even if you're a little bit fearful of subtitles, which I don't think you should be, if you want a lot of great cinema, but even if you don't like subtitles, there is an English language version that you can check out on this, which is the kind of the main presentation version. There's no excuses. You should check this one out. Like I said, it's a really good looking transfer. It was released in 2023 from a restoration of the 35 millimeter elements by Moss Film, and the collaborations with Moss Film by Deaf Crocodile yielded some of my favorite releases, including Kinzaza, but this is another one as well. There's a commentary track, the 2 interviews, one of which I talked about with McDowell, but the 2 interviews adding up to about 2 hours worth of material, so very, very lengthy interviews, which Deaf Crocodile typically tends to do. Dennis over there asks some great questions, and I really enjoy these discussions. So if you missed out on this, the Assassin of the Tsar, this really cool slipcover version is now available. Or you can buy a non-slipcover version, but most of these, there's like a limited number that are pretty cheap, like $20 right now, which is pretty ridiculous for what you're getting. So if you get in early, you get a little bit of a discount. But even when it's not discounted, I still think these are worth it. Which I believe the next one is a few dollars more. It might have already sold through its discounted allotment, and that is the Visitors from the Arkana Galaxy. This one is a really wild sci-fi story about a writer whose creations start to come to life, and then kind of madness ensues in that kind of this little seaside town. Interrupts, like, it starts to create problems within the community, and then with his girlfriend, and then there's weird creatures. There's a lot of stuff going on this one, but like this, I said, similar to Bubble Bath, this is one that I've covered on the show before, so I'm not going to go deep into this, but it is a really cool sci-fi film, and you get the same booklet that came with the Vinegar Syndrome release, so still including the booklets and everything, same disc and everything. So you get it was a scan of the 35 millimeter interpositive from the Croatian Film Institute, LPCM 2.0 audio in the original language, commentary track, and 5 shorts to go along with this. So really nice visual quality that holds up with the quality of the materials that were available. Sound is pretty good as well. English SDH subtitles, and yeah, really good release. Nice slipcover for this one. All 3 of these Deaf Crocodile titles are very much worth owning, and why not get us a really nice slipcover if you don't have it already. But I'm going to continue on to Shout Studios and Scream Factory. The first title of which I'm going to talk about is the recent 4K release of Riddick, which is the 3rd movie in this Riddick franchise, which started off with Pitch Black and the Chronicles of Riddick. Last year, around this time, I talked about the Chronicles of Riddick 4K release from Arrow Video. Now Shout, or Scream Factory, has the 4K rights for this title. So a little all over the place in terms of like the labels that are putting out this franchise, but you do have all the current entries out now on 4K. This 3rd version, third entry in the movie, kind of harkens back to the original like Pitch Black version, where it is Riddick on a strange planet. There's some creatures abound. This time there's kind of like a group that are around trying to take him out. It kind of loosely ties into the events at the end of the Chronicles of Riddick, where he kind of ascended to a position of power. Now he is kind of like been kind of ousted from that position of power, and is now just like in a hunt for survival and trying to find his planet that he comes from. And he also makes some friends with some creatures as well, like kind of like a almost dog-esque creatures. But so it's kind of like more of a mixture of Pitch Black with Chronicles of Riddick, but more so Pitch Black and kind of the desolated planet antics. It's pretty decent. I think the sheer like audacity of storytelling, I think Chronicles of Riddick is the most interesting narratively. Pitch Black is probably the most interesting as like a horror film. So this is like maybe the weakest of the three, but I still think it's solid, and I think Vin Diesel does a nice job in this role. He seems to he really cares about it, and he brings along like a pretty solid ensemble to support him. In terms of this 4K presentation, it was a 4K restoration supervised by director David Towie, and it looks accurate to how this should look. It's kind of like a more kind of like purposefully blown out, like earthy texture experience and stuff. So it's not like the most visually dazzling presentation, but everything looks pretty accurate to what this movie from like the early 2010s should look like. There's no blown highlights or anything. Whenever there are darker area corners of the presentation, everything looks nice and deep and detailed. There's no black crush or anything like that. Everything holds together to how it's supposed to look. It's just not the most like dynamic looking movie. It's very same looking throughout. But I think it looks good. And one thing I do want to note, and this has been a major source of controversy online, and I understand why. There has been a shot near the end of the movie that has been removed. It kind of fades to black at a point where Riddick is squeezing a woman's butt when he is being saved from it, like a perilous situation. It kind of fades out as like you would normally see this butt squeeze. It is theorized that the director probably took this out on his own accord. We haven't really gotten clarification. But if you are just in serious need of seeing that butt grab and you have the previous release, hold on to it. But I wouldn't let that completely dissuade you from picking up this 4K release, because otherwise it is quite solid. You get the Dolby Vision looks really nice. 5.1 track is very powerful. You get both the unrated and the theatrical cut, besides from that one shot that I told you about. You get 3 new interviews that run about 10 to 17 minutes. The longest one that runs about 17 minutes is from actress Katie Sackhoff, and that is the one I probably enjoyed the most. You do get all the archival features from the previous release, various featurettes and stuff. So theatrical and unrated cut, both in 4K, and then each the unrated and theatrical cut given their own disc on the Blu-ray release, like on the Blu-ray disc. So 3 discs, but both cuts in 4K. So if you're a fan of this franchise, I think this is a pretty solid 4K release from Scream Factory, and it's worth checking out. My next title from the Shout family is one that I have had fond memories of being excited about this movie being released, and that is Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. Because I remember, I believe it was released in 2004, and this was one that was going to be released like right around my birthday. So I remember planning to go see this, and I'm pretty sure I went to see this in IMAX. And it's been a long time since I've seen it since. It is a very bold movie. It doesn't quite work completely, but I still find a lot of charm in it. It's kind of like a take on like the old serials that like the Indiana Jones character was inspired by. It's kind of that, but more in kind of like a almost steampunk, retro futuristic version of like, it's a tale about, or like mad scientists like using robots to try to hatch his plan to like do different deeds on Earth and everything. So you get giant robots, you get people flying airplanes and shooting them down and going underwater adventures. There's like all terrain and but modes of like vaguely like futuristic robotic antics. There's a lot going on in here. And you got the likes of like Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelina Jolie as our main kind of core cast members. And it's all shot in a way that a lot of digital effects kind of composited into this footage. So the way that this film renders in 4K, it's purposefully like kind of nostalgic looking, very soft and dreamy. So similar to other titles I've talked about, don't expect to go into this movie having kind of like the most crisp, dynamic look. It's very supposed to be kind of monochromatic. Like they was originally conceived to potentially be shot in black and white, but they didn't quite do that. But the way they kind of hyper saturated certain colors and kind of like stylized the look of everything, it looked really cool how they kind of like made this look stylistically. But just the way the technology was rendered, it's not an ideal release for 4K, but the previous Blu-ray was lacking enough that this is definitely an improvement upon that, and it is definitely the best way to watch this movie. I believe the DTS 5.1 track is also an audio upgrade, because I think the lossy audio track was present on the previous Blu-ray release. There was like some overseas releases that were a little bit better than our American Blu-rays. But if you're just a casual fan who wasn't importing this from like Japan, this is definitely kind of the first time you're watching and seeing this movie as it probably should be seen. So visually and audio wise, I think it's about as accurate as you could want from it. It's a 4K transfer from the 35mm digital negative, which that's kind of a vague descriptor from Shout, considering how this was finished digitally. But it is a 4K restoration and it looks good, as good as it can look. You get 2 commentary tracks, a making of, documentary, and some featurettes. No new special features, but carrying over the archival special features. So if you're a fan of Sky Captain the World of Tomorrow, this is the best way to catch it. Unfortunately, no slipcover for this one, even first run. But if you're a fan, worth checking out for the 4K disc. It's definitely a nice improvement. Sticking with our 4K upgrades from Shout Studios, we have the release of Werner Herzog's, I'm going to mess this up, I'm going to butcher this, Aguirre, the Wrath of God. Earlier Werner Herzog movie with Klaus Kinski about some conquistadors that are going on a perilous journey to find the lost city of El Dorado, and kind of the way that this journey kind of sleeks throughout, and people start to lose their minds, and allegiances are formed, and people are overthrown, and lots of violent confrontations that basically it's a perilous journey of people kind of losing their minds and facing the consequences of their audacity. I think it's a really fascinating movie, visually beautiful with a lot of kind of like natural locales and everything. Kind of very methodically paced. It's not full like of like action sequences or anything, but the way it is staged by Herzog and kind of the raw insanity of Klaus Kinski, his performance, it all works very well, and it's very entertaining. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's only about 90 minutes long, but very much worth checking out if you're a Werner Herzog fan, which you've probably already seen it if you are. But the 4K release is definitely worth checking out. This is from a 4K transfer from the 35mm original camera negative. Looks fantastic. All the jungle locales look terrific. In Dolby Vision, nice greenery and everything standing out. Texture, no DNR or anything like that. Everything looks nice with the film grain intact. The original You have the original German audio, as well as an English dub as well. So you have an option of which track you want to listen to, 2 commentary tracks, and a trailer. This is a pretty bold movie from Werner Herzog, but it is worth owning on 4K in my opinion. It's a really nice release. Another major upgrade from Shout Studios on 4K is the Al Pacino drama Scent of a Woman. It's been about probably 12, 14 years since I've seen this movie. It's been a while. But I really enjoyed revisiting this one because this just kind of harkens back to kind of the solid 90s drama, like adult dramas that they used to make that I kind of miss quite a bit. It's just a simple story about like a kid at a prep school who gets a job over Thanksgiving break to like helping out a visually impaired man played by Al Pacino, who is a little bit of a rascal, and he like absconds with him to New York City, and while he's there, he's trying to like really live it up big, and like before he like makes a very big decision that he's kind of come to. And at the same time, our younger character played by Chris O'Donnell, he's kind of like away for the weekend, dreading going back to school to face some actions where he was a witness to kind of a prank that he could potentially get in trouble for if like he doesn't reveal what he knows. And it's just like both of them kind of like bonding with one another, learning from one another, and like especially the Chris O'Donnell character kind of learning a lot about life and coming into kind of a sense of self through knowing this very larger than life personality. And there are various characters we meet along the way, played by like Gabriella Anwar and Bradley Whitford and stuff. But the core of the movie, this pretty mammoth movie at over 2.5 hours, is these two characters, and I liked it quite a bit. Very big performance from Pacino, but I think he's still in a mode where it works here. I think this was actually a Oscar-winning role for Al Pacino. He has a ridiculous one-liner at the end of the movie that had me cackling. I love it, but it's a big movie in terms of like performances, but it's a small enough movie that's like a humanistic drama, which I love. So I really enjoyed this. The previous Blu-ray of this movie looked awful. It's similar to the 40-year-old virgin, but not quite as bad, but still pretty bad, where there's a lot of DNR, and it just looked very unnatural. This new 4K restoration from the 35mm original camera negative has been approved and supervised by director Martin Brest, and it looks fantastic. This is a really gorgeous looking movie. Really like nice natural film grain. It takes place over Thanksgiving weekend, so you like nice autumnal colors. Just really solid looking transfer with lots of detail in like the clothing, locales, everything looks really good. The sound is really good as well. Really wonderful score that sounds great here. And you get a 51-minute interview with Martin Brest, which is fantastic. A 21-minute interview with one of the assistant editors. Really terrific release from Shout Studios. You can tell they put a lot of effort into this one. This one I look forward to revisiting again, probably over the Thanksgiving holiday. A little bit sad I didn't get to watch it at that time right now, but I wanted to get my review out for you, and it is a really good release. So check it out if you're a fan of this movie. Definitely a big upgrade from the previous Blu-ray. Heading over to the world of television for a beat, we have the second and final season of 1923, a entry into the Yellowstone universe, with headlined by Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, but with a wider range of characters who are picking up where we left off of the first season. I won't get too spoilery or anything like that, but there's a lot of characters taking a lot of different journeys. Some are kind of on the run from the law. Some are traveling transcontinentally to reunite with different people. There are stacked discs on one of these hubs, so 3 discs, 2 of which are stacked on top of each other, but this one no disc underneath it. This is a really taxing season in terms of what our characters have to go through. I think the writers kind of go a little bit overboard on some of the kind of like grief that they put these characters through. They kind of lean on violence and sexual violence a little bit too much in this season for my personal taste. But otherwise, there's the way these characters kind of reach their kind of natural endpoints. It is very effective, and it still is one of the better kind of like entries in the entire Yellowstone universe. They're going to continue with like another entry in the near future with like another generation of Duttons and seeing how we got to the Yellowstone we know now. But I'm overall pleased with how the second season went. There's just a few creative choices I didn't quite agree with. There's a lot of great action sequences here, and there are some very cathartic moments with certain like character reunions, some heartbreaking moments with various deaths. Lots going on in this season, but it is a great season of television. If you're a fan of this, if you're a fan of the first season, I think it continues on well throughout the second season. Always great to see Harrison Ford on screen and Helen Mirren. But the entire ensemble is doing really good work, especially anytime we're dealing with like kind of the realities of how like Native Americans were treated, and some of our Native American characters on this show have some of the most interesting plot lines in my opinion. But it's all 8 episodes of the second season, along with tons of behind the scenes footage and various featurettes. Like each episode you get a little deep dive into each episode, and lots of featurettes that kind of go individually into some like different craft elements and storytelling elements and everything. So Paramount's always done a really good job of giving a lot of special features to these releases, and this is no exception. Looks really good on Blu-ray with great HD transfers, picking up all the visual beauties of this series. And then the Dolby True HD 5.1 track sounds really good. So yeah, 1923 season 2, worthy pickup for your collection. And if you thought that was bleak, wait till you see what the Criterion Collection has in store for you this month. The first title, pretty bleak. From Vittorio De Sica, we have the classic Shoeshine. This was from 1946. This is, if you're a fan of Italian neorealism, definitely worth checking this one out, from the director of The Bicycle Thieves. This is a 4K release. Here is the booklet for this one. It's about 2 boys who are kind of working on the street as shoeshine boys. They are trying to buy a horse. One of the boys has a family who he can go home to, while the other boy is just kind of living kind of on his own after being orphaned on the street. But these two are kind of like brothers, but they end up getting mixed up in a kind of crime that they this isn't really a spoiler. They get sentenced to go to kind of like a juvenile delinquent like kind of situation, but it's kind of like a tiny prison that until they can kind of give the authorities the information that they want to know and be punished for the crimes that like their part in the crime that they took place in. All I gotta say is Italian law at this time was apparently very wild. They were very cruel to these boys, and their time inside in this kind of prison drama for youths really kind of tests their friendship, and how while they're thick as thieves going in, there's a lot on the inside that really plagues them, and just the realities of trying to survive and misunderstandings, all that kind of stuff. Really makes for a very harrowing watch up until the very end. It's very bleak, very tragic. You will not find like a lot of happiness coming out of the story, but in terms of like an effective social drama, Shoeshine really made an impact on me. It's only about an hour and a half long, and it kept my attention throughout. All some of the best youth performances I've seen. Do a really nice job. A lot of characters, the adult characters especially, are very frustrating, but it's Italian neorealism. What are you going to do? It's very bleak. But this 4K release in SDR looks very nice. So you got 4K restoration from the best surviving film elements. And it looks good. It's been cleaned up very well. No major damage lingering or anything like that. Maybe a few minor specks still lingering here and there, but overall it's been cleaned up pretty well. Nice texture to the screen and everything. Just based on what this film is, you can't expect for it to be like a crystal clear experience, but everything looks nice and natural with like good compression for the 4K disc. I think that's probably like the handling of this 4K restoration on the 4K disc, even if it's not HDR Dolby Vision enabled. You have improvements in that kind of resolving of the grain structure and making sure there's no compression artifacts or any digital anomalies. That's what the 4K is definitely a benefit of, and just getting the full breadth of that 4K master. But it looks really nice. Original mono audio. Sounds pretty solid. A little bit brittle just because of how old it is, but overall it's been remastered and holds it together pretty well. In the original Italian, you get the documentary that was made for the 70th anniversary, I believe in 2016. Interviews and radio shows. Good release for a classic of Italian cinema, Shoeshine. Not the first title from Vittorio De Sica that usually gets uttered, but this is definitely a standout in his filmography. Next up, I have two titles from Kon Ichikawa, the Japanese film director. The first of which is, they're both about war. The first of which is The Burmese Harp. So this is from 1956. This is a harrowing tale about, from the Japanese perspective during World War II, about time whenever they kind of near the end of the war, in the waning days of the war, there's a group captured in Burma by kind of the British battalion, but one of the soldiers gets lost and goes undercover as a Buddhist monk. And it's really a tale about these soldiers trying to reunite with their comrade, and the undercover monk kind of finding, he is a harp player, so that's kind of a big process of this, but him trying to come to terms with what he's seeing while he's been out kind of in the midst of things, and seeing how the war has kind of destroyed his country in terms of like all the Japanese bodies that he sees lining the roads and stuff, and how he's kind of like reckoning with his place in the larger scope of the war and everything, and just trying to come to terms with his spirituality and all this kind of stuff, and like nonviolence, all that kind of is kind of woven into here. So of the two war films I'm talking about from Ichikawa, this is definitely the more hopeful of the two. There's some beautiful moments in here. It's still very harrowing, but you have a little bit more kind of hope at the end of it than the next one, especially that I'm talking about. But the Burmese Harp, it looks really good. You get a 4K restoration from the 35 millimeter master positive from Nikatsu. It looks really nice in 4K, in SDR, but everything looks really good in the original mono. The grayscale looks very nice contrast in terms of like no blown out highlights, deep black levels, really nice details within kind of the backgrounds and everything. Really good 4K presentation, getting the most out of the 4K master. The mono sounds really good as well, no major distortion or anything like that. Everything holds together pretty well. You do get interviews here and a trailer. So if you're a fan of Japanese cinema, especially anti-war cinema, Burmese Harp is a good one. But also to pair with that would be Fires on the Plain. So another one from Ichikawa, this one in 1959. Once again, looking at Japanese involvement in the World War II. But this one is about a soldier who is kind of sent off to receive medical treatment at the beginning of the movie. He is very sick with, I believe, like typhus or tuberculosis. But the infirmary sends him back, and then then his unit sends him back to the infirmary. So he's kind of like bouncing back and forth, and very sick, and kind of just always finding disastrous things to explore on his journey of increasingly desperate soldiers lost in the midst of this war where units are kind of bombed and dissolved, and people are finding one another and just trying to survive, and just very paranoid, people stealing rations. Everything is just like so depressing and bleak and everything. So this is not an easy watch, but it is very powerful, and it's very, very well done from Ichikawa. So it's a rewarding watch, but definitely not one you want to enter into lightly, because you will feel like a weight on you as you're watching it, and even after you're done watching it. Another 4K restoration. This one from a restoration of the 35mm original camera negative from Katakawa. Of my 3 titles from the Criterion Collection, all are in SDR. This one probably looks the best just because of the original negative that it had to work with. Nice film grain has been retained, no digital processing. Everything looks very natural and looks good. Original mono. You get an introduction and a couple some featurettes on this one that gives some nice context to this with some experts. So Fires on the Plane, really, really nice 4K release. Like I said, very taxing watch, but very much worth it. Going over to another piece of Asian cinema, we have Martial Law, Lo Wei's Wushu World. So we have 3 Wushu tales. So here we have The Black Butterfly, Death Valley, and Vengeance of a Snow Girl. So this is a 2-disc release with these 3 movies. So you have The Black Butterfly and Death Valley on the first disc, and then you have the Vengeance of a Snow Girl on the 3rd disc. That one does run a little over 2 hours long, so it's given its own disc. You can kind of see some of the artwork underneath here. So these 3 tales offer a pretty nice variety. The Black Butterfly is kind of like a Robin Hood-esque tale of like stealing from the rich to give to the poor, and kind of the ramifications of that. Death Valley is more so kind of your classic power vacuum revenge tale of like a girl slaying her uncle who's like in power, and kind of the vacuum of power that is left after that, and the different people fighting to try to claim it. And then Vengeance of a Snow Girl is probably the most interesting because it gets a little bit supernatural and gets really wild near the end. But it is starts off as kind of your classic revenge tale, and of a girl who is trying to get vengeance for her parents being killed, and is trying to protect this like sacred sword that the kind of everyone believes that the emperor should have and stuff. So, and kind of like forbidden love, all that kind of stuff is kind of woven in here. So Lo Wei, 3 interesting tales from the filmmaker that are just keep on offering the good Asian cinema pipeline from Eureka. They've done a really nice job with this set. It's very affordable for these 3 films. All are from HD transfers. All look pretty nice. There seems to be, because these were conducted by the rights holders overseas. But so there seems to be small bits of digital processing there. You still get textures and stuff on the film and everything, but it seems to be a little bit processed more so than I kind of like, but it's not terrible, but it could be a little bit more natural looking. But the colors will look really nice, and there's no major damage. So overall, these 3 look quite good. There's just a little bit of a shortcomings here and there. 3 commentary tracks, 1 for each film, and then interviews as well. So overall, these 3 films from Loway, really good way to own these on Blu-ray from Eureka Entertainment. Worth checking out from them. Going over to Cult Epics and going to Japan, we have His Motorbike, Her Island. This is a really kind of nice story about a guy on a motorcycle who is kind of like going on kind of a like internal search. He's thinking about breaking up with the girl he's been seeing, which he eventually does, but he meets another girl on his travels out into kind of the countryside who he kind of quickly becomes enamored with, and she likewise becomes enamored with him, but also becomes enamored with his motorcycle, and she starts to want to kind of get into this lifestyle. So it's kind of like this tale of like love, but also kind of freedom that comes with like getting behind the wheel of a motorcycle, and just like it's kind of like a really cool like social drama, relationship drama, just kind of like how these this kind of era treated this lifestyle, and how it's kind of like a more like almost like Japan's Easy Rider almost, but it with a little bit more kind of like romance thrown in there. But really, really cool movie, and like a really undiscovered gem that I think is very much worth checking out. From this one, new Blu-ray from Cult Epics is HD transfer. Looks quite nice. Really nicely detailed. Got some film grain and everything, so you got nice textures on the clothing, on all the landscapes and everything. Nice bold colors. But this is a movie that it plays around with colors and everything, so sometimes it'll fade to black and white and stuff based on the character's perspective, and like you get a little bit of that through his narration, but everything looks accurate to what it's supposed to look like. You get a commentary track, you get 2 visual essays, you get an interview. Really nice package put together for His Motorbike, Her Island. I love Cult Epics, and they always put in a good effort, and this is a nice release from them. Going over to a label that hasn't had a ton of releases. I believe this is just their 3rd Blu-ray release. This is Whole Grain Pictures, and this is 25 Cats from Qatar. I know there's a couple different ways I've heard this country spoken, but I'm going with Qatar. I've enjoyed all 3 Whole Grain Pictures movies that I've reviewed so far. But this was just a delight to watch. It's a documentary about a woman from America who goes over to Qatar and attempts to bring back 25 cats to get adopted in America, because the cat population is pretty much out of control over there. And while, yeah, people might say like, oh, only 25 cats, or like every little bit helps, and like seeing the journey that she, like all the hell that she goes through in terms of like trying to get approvals for different like agencies, and trying to get like make sure these cats are in good health to travel enough, and like you can tell she really cares about this project, and she puts her all into doing this, and she meets a lot of really great people who are as passionate as her around the world and like around the area and stuff, who are like dedicated to trying to rescue these cats. And like you get to learn a lot about how cats are observed in this culture, because they are like viewed differently from dogs, because they are viewed to be clean as opposed to like dogs are dirty and stuff. And it's really fascinating to get kind of some cultural context to cats and how they are viewed in this country, but also just seeing the nuts and bolts of how these cats are attempted to be rescued, and just seeing tons of cute cats and stuff. I was a cat dad in a former life, and I love cats, and this was just a delight. There's so many cute cats. Nothing just for anyone who's fearful or kind of trepidatious around like this kind of story of like rescuing cats. there's nothing like too horrifying or anything like that. You're not going to left like being utterly devastated. It's mostly like a pretty like uplifting story overall. There are some things that are like mildly upsetting in terms of like cats with like maybe certain like diseases that you see them get nursed back to health and stuff. But overall, it's a pretty positive experience. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely worth checking out. Like I said, not too distressing, but very, very worthwhile. And I really liked this documentary quite a bit. From Whole Grain Pictures, this Blu-ray picture looks very nice. Nice HD transfer from a recent movie. You get the soundtrack is good. The sound quality is good as well. Everything's crystal clear. You get a Q&A for this one and a trailer presentation. Whole Grain Pictures may have not released a lot of movies on Blu-ray, but every release has been quality. So very much worth supporting them and their Blu-ray releases. I look forward to more from them. Going over to one of my rare DVD releases I feature on this show, going over to Paramount and CBS and their release of Matlock Season 1 on DVD. So this is the recent revival of Matlock, which is not strictly a reboot of the original show. They definitely switch things up. This features all 19 episodes from the first season. And this is one I was kind of had made up my mind that I wasn't going to watch this one when it originally premiered. But then I love Kathy Bates and some of the other characters like Jason Ritter, or actors like Jason Ritter on the show, and Beau Bridges. And Kathy Bates started getting like Emmy nominations and stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll check it out and everything. And I heard really good buzz. And it is a really good show. It's like, it is kind of your standard like CBS procedural in terms of like you know what you're getting a lot with like these clever characters solving like court cases and everything. But there is like an ongoing narrative in the background that I won't spoil because they reveal it at the end of the first episode. But what I think is special about this, how they approach this show, is Matlock, the original show, is a show in this universe. Like she is using Matlock as a known quantity as her character. Like she kind of addresses like the name similarities and how it is used, and there's even a little bit more to it that I won't spoil. But the way she uses like the perception of Matlock to not strictly reboot it, but kind of recontextualize it to explore a new narrative, I think works very well. And she's just a very, the way she uses people's perceptions of people who are older and how they may kind of overlook them, how she uses that to her advantage to often win different cases and everything. I think that works very well. Like I will not turn up my nose to a well-made procedural. I watch tons of them, but a lot of the times it's just kind of background viewing to me, but I paid a little bit more strict attention to this one, and it did end up being a valuable watch for me. And since I had it on DVD, I didn't have to watch them with tons of ads on Paramount Plus, which was a huge plus for me. But yes, it is a step down from that HD presentation I would have seen, but I will argue that the 4K player I have, and a lot of really just standard Blu-ray players, they can upscale DVD quite well. And this is a brand new show. So yes, I can tell a difference between like an upscale DVD and an HD stream or a Blu-ray disc. But for certain titles that just aren't getting a Blu-ray release, if you want to own them, it's not a bad looking presentation by any means. It's a really nice presentation for DVD, and the sound is solid as well. So AV wise, it's as good as you want from DVD. It's not HD, but it is upscaled very, very nicely, and worth owning if you are a fan of the show. Like I said, all 19 episodes are on these discs. You get some deleted scenes and a gag reel, so you get some special features. But mainly you get to see one of our all-time great actresses, and probably one of her final roles, she said, and she seems to be having fun with this one, and she does a nice job. I love Kathy Bates, and if you like a good procedural, Matlock is one of the better ones airing right now, and it is worth checking out. Going over to a different kind of lawyer and different kind of crime tales. We have from Kino Studio Classics, Film Noir, The Dark Side of Cinema, 26 volumes deep. We're getting wild over here, and we have 3 solid editions here. We have Dr. Broadway, about a physician who's kind of gets involved with like some criminal activities on Broadway, and just like getting involved with some mobsters, and how he kind of like at the beginning of the movie, he like rescues a woman from like who's trying to like potentially like jump from a building and stuff, and just like how seeing his night unfold from there, and just how he kind of, all the people he knows and different connections he's made, how it all kind of like builds and like coalesces in the end. It's very interesting, and it's worth noting that this is the directorial debut from the great Anthony Mann, and he's done a really nice job with this one. He would go on to make much better movies, but this is a solid directorial debut. We also have Smooth as Silk, which largely involves a woman trying to work her way through different men to get herself like as much power and fame as possible, and how that kind of comes back to bite her when like some people don't quite like her approach to romance and maybe wants to get a little bit of revenge. This one's pretty solid in terms of entertainment as well. Might actually be my favorite of the 3. But my final one, I have a little bit to say about this. The Great Gatsby. This is the 1949 version with Alan Ladd. What I specifically want to address with this one is, this rarely happens with the Dark Side of Cinema line, but The Great Gatsby is available on its own if you only want to own it and no other titles in this collection. So you can buy a standalone Great Gatsby. I think the only other time that's been the case is the first volume, before they started kind of going through what they're doing now. But if you want to only own the Great Gatsby, that is viewed, can be owned separately with its own slipcase and all that kind of stuff. But it's the Great Gatsby. It's the F. Scott Fitzgerald adaptation. Not the most faithful adaptation I've seen, but it's faithful enough, and it's okay in terms of adaptation. It's not far from my favorite, but Alan Ladd does a good job, and it does a decent. But that film and the Dr. Broadway have both been given 4K scans, and they probably are the best looking of the 3. The Smooth as Silk, I don't know the provenance of that release, but it looks solid, but it probably could have a little bit more work done to it, but it overall looks good as well. Some like audio hollowness on some of these titles, but overall holds up pretty well. You get 2 commentary tracks for Dr. Broadway, 1 for Smooth as Silk and 1 for Great Gatsby. You get interview on here, and some trailers. So if you're a fan of the Dark Side of Cinema releases, this one continues to present some good titles, and it's worth picking up. We have the great Jack Lemmon in an Oscar-winning role for Save the Tiger next from Kino Studio Classics, about a man who's kind of like, it's just kind of having a string of like those days where he's kind of like at the end of his rope. He runs a business that's like not quite doing super well. He might have to try to burn a building to get a like fire insurance claim. He's like has clients coming in that has to hook up with like prostitutes. That doesn't go completely as planned. He has kind of like an existential crisis going on. He longs for the days of youth where he just used to be able to play baseball. He's haunted by memories of war. There's a lot going on here of this character who's just kind of like out of it, and just kind of like wishes that his mind could just be free. And Jack Lemmon won against a lot of heavy hitters this year. He won against like Al Pacino for Serpico. He won against Jack Nicholson for The Last Detail. I believe he won against like Robert Redford for The Sting. So a lot of people are like, why did Jack Lemmon beat all these people? And that's a fair question, but he is really, really great in this, and Jack Lemmon's one of our all-time greats. So to see him win this Oscar, it is rewarding. And it is a good movie. It holds up very well, and I was intrigued throughout. It's a nice character-driven drama, just seeing what this character is like as he's unraveling and how it all kind of culminates. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And this has been given a new 4K scan of the 35mm original camera negative. It holds up very well, nice and textured in terms of film grain, nice bold colors, natural, deep colors that like you get kind of that California landscape that looks very nice. Audio holds up pretty well. This was from the 70s, but the audio holds up quite well. And you get two commentary tracks and a trailer. One commentary track is new, one is carried over. Overall, if you're a Jack Lemmon fan, Save the Tiger is probably essential viewing for you. But even if you just like 70s character-driven dramas of yore, Save the Tiger is definitely worth checking out. A little bit more iffy on if you need to check this out, but one I'm so glad I checked out is a very early Ron Howard film, Gung Ho with Michael Keaton. So this one, it's a mixed bag in terms of how it's aged. About a American manufacturing plant that is taken over by the Japanese, and they keep on the Michael Keaton character to kind of like go as a go-between to kind of instill kind of Japanese values to the American workers and kind of like the culture clash that goes on. You also have Getty Watanabe from 16 Candles in this film. So the whole culture clash aspect of this, there are definitely some things that haven't aged super well. But there are things that are handled like a little bit better than you would expect. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Michael Keaton is great. George Wendt is on the ensemble is great. You have Mimi Rogers, John Turturro, lots of great people in here. That it's a movie that hits a lot of the obvious points in terms of like the difference between like Japanese values and American values. There's a little bit of like, of course, like a little slight jingoism in terms of like, yay America, but like there is a little bit of an understanding of just like, this isn't like horrible to Japanese culture, but it's not, it could be better. So like I said, mixed bag in terms of response, and like funny, it's funny enough, but it's not like laugh out loud hilarious. So yeah, it's all right. I'm glad to have seen it, and it's nice to have this on Blu-ray from a new 4K scanner, the 35mm camera negative. It does look really nice and bold. There's a scene that takes place on the 4th of July where you get nice pops of color with the fireworks, but even like throughout, everything looks really nice. And the manufacturing plant is like all the colors, like the metallics and stuff are deep and nuanced and everything. Sound is good as well. No major issues there. You get a commentary track and 2 different interviews, one with Getty Watanabe and one with George Wendt. It was good. Like we recently lost George Wendt, so I'm glad that we got an interview with him before he passed. Overall, Gung Ho. If you're a fan of Michael Keaton or John Turturro, anyone, or Ron Howard fan, it's worth having a good release of this title, but maybe try before you buy if you're just more of a casual fan, because there are some dated elements of this. One of our more notorious movies I'm talking about this week is the 1980 classic Xanadu with Olivia Newton-John and Gene Kelly. Now, this is kind of like a notorious like disaster in terms of like the release and reception and stuff. I don't think it deserves like completely its like kind of negative reputation. I don't think it's like a legitimate classic or anything like that, but there are a lot of elements that I find to be fun, and I love Olivia Newton-John. But this is a pretty ambitious story about a Olivia Newton-John playing like a literalized muse, like kind of like a goddess who is brought to life to kind of help our protagonist artist kind of like find inspiration in his artwork that he's attempting to do, and he ends up opening up a club with this old Gene Kelly character who also had the same muse to open up this Xanadu and everything, and it goes into a bunch of stuff with like gods and goddesses and everything. There's not a lot of plot to this that really like I appreciate kind of the swings with the plot, but the actual plot to this movie, there's not a lot. And even at 96 minutes long, so just over an hour and a half, you don't have a lot that happens in this movie. Which is fine because the movie is based around the music, and the music is awesome. A lot of it is co-penned by Jeff Lynne from ELO. A lot of really great dance sequences, and just like the general vibes are awesome in terms of like if you like that type of music, it's great, and I had a lot of fun listening to the music. But plot wise, not a lot to it. But maybe even worse is there's a charisma vacuum around our male protagonist, our not Gene Kelly, but the main male protagonist. I think if they would have gotten a stronger actor who could have made like an impression and made you actually care about the core romance between him and Olivia Newton-John, I think it would have went a long way towards like bringing something like extra magical to this movie. Not that you needed a star in that role, but maybe if you could have like had a star making role there, that probably would have been cool. But the star of this movie is Olivia Newton-John, and the music, and both of those soar. She's great. I had fun with this, but it's very flimsy and there's not a lot to it outside of the music. So if you don't like the music, I don't think you're going to have a lot of fun with this, because story-wise, not really like kicking on all cylinders in my opinion. But this is my first time watching this, but it's from a 4K scan of the 35mm original camera negative. It looks quite good in terms of Kino's 4K efforts. Maybe could be encoded a little bit more thoroughly in terms of like a little bit of like compression stuff here and there, a little bit of noise and stuff. But overall, it's pretty decent. Probably the biggest benefit of this release is you have the 4.0 stereo track, which is the default track, and it is the most powerful, but you also do have a 5.1 and 2.0 track. The 4.0 stereo, I think, is a big coup for fans who were really hoping it would have that, and they do, luckily. They went all out with special features, at least with the commentary tracks. You get 4 new commentary tracks. You get a classic sizzle reel and a documentary on this movie, on the making of this movie. From 2009, going back to Xanadu. So overall, I think this is a really nice audio-visual presentation, really cool special features on this one. If you like the movie, this is the ideal presentation for you. But if you mostly just heard about its reputation and you're not a big fan of like this era of music or like ELO, stuff like that, maybe sample some songs, see if it's for you. If you like it, check it out. If not, maybe find a way to stream it or rent it or something, and then before you invest in a full 4K release. But if you do like it, this is a really nice release. Closing it out with a couple of comedies. First off, we have from Kino, we have Coneheads, the classic SNL characters. This movie from 1993. Starring Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin, and with appearances from pretty much every comedian that you could think of from this era. This is the reversible art here. I've reversed it, but if you just want the standard art, you can get this underneath. So you got the 4K and Blu-ray disc here about these aliens who come to Earth and trying to blend into mixed results, and they have their kind of daughter who's a little bit rebellious, wants to be able to live her own life and everything, and then there's like some special agents trying to get to the bottom of who the Coneheads are, and like what their secret is, what they're doing, all that kind of good stuff. So Aliens Amongst Us, and it's fairly funny. It's not the most uproarious. I've laughed at an SNL inspired comedy, but I don't think it's as terrible as its reputation would have you believe. But it's decent. I think I'm glad I recently bought the Blu-ray of this that came out a couple of years ago. When it came out a couple of years ago, I never got around to watching it. I'm glad that my first watch in a while was on 4K. Probably helped that visually it looked a little bit better, so it probably made me appreciate the movie overall a little bit more. Mainly, I would probably check this out for all the performers that come through, like, of course, Aykroyd and Curtin and stuff, but you have all kinds of people. You got Jason Alexander, Drew Carey, Chris Farley, Eddie Griffin, Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, Tim Meadows, Adam Sandler, Lorraine Newman, Michael Richards, Sinbad, David Spade, Julia Sweeney, tons and tons of people that have little parts throughout this movie. But I especially like Chris Farley as the romantic interest to the daughter. Love Farley, been getting a lot of movies from him on 4K this year. And yeah, Coneheads. Visually, this isn't one of the stronger Kino encodes. One of the ones that I wish I could have optimized a little bit better. So you get a little bit of noise and stuff like that. Still a big jump from the old Paramount Blu-ray, but I can tell this master looks really great. It just wasn't optimized to perfection. It looks good. I think most audiences who aren't too discriminatory or aren't nitpicking things will probably think it looks pretty good, but there are things that could have improved this here and there. You get pretty decent audio soundscape. Dolby Vision looks really nice with the colors and everything throughout here. It's a bright movie and it looks pretty good. And the shadows also look good with no major breakup with Black Crush or anything, but compression wise it could have been held up a little bit better. Get a commentary track, interviews, electronic press kit, and behind the scenes featurettes. Probably the best it looks on the market right now. Not a home run, but definitely a good release. Just wish that Kino could go back to their old compression ways in terms of 3 or 4 years ago, before they started getting a little bit slapdash with things. My final release is, in my opinion, an all-time classic comedy. I've been quoting this like crazy with my wife the past few days since we've watched it. We both love this movie. Adam Sandler and Happy Gilmore. I talked about Billy Madison like a month ago when it came to 4K. I love Happy Gilmore even more upon rewatching it. So many quotable lines of Adam Sandler playing a guy who dreams of being a hockey player, but comes to learn that he's a born golfer and trying to make enough money in this sport to save his grandmother's house. One of the more heartfelt of the early Sandler comedies. He's always good in heartfelt mode, but also so many really funny gags here from Sandler himself, who is playing things a little bit more straight than he was doing in Billy Madison, to all of the people that join him. Bob Barker and Christopher McDonald. So many good people, and Julie Bowen is in this as a romantic interest. Just so many funny moments in here that, like I said, I've been quoting with my wife a lot. And Ben Stiller in his role as the nurse at the nursing home is ridiculously funny. I love Happy Gilmore, and I haven't seen the sequel yet, but I was waiting for this 4K to come through so I could rewatch this, and then I will get to the sequel soon. But this 4K is from a 6K scan of the original camera negative. Overall, it's a beautiful looking master. Once again, maybe not encoded perfectly, but it's passable, and definitely the best it's looked on physical media. just maybe could be tightened up a little bit more to be even more perfect. The original soundtrack sounds really good, especially with a lot of the tunes that are used in here sound really good. Dolby Vision works really, really nicely on the golf greens that look really nice and bold and stuff. Commentary track, deleted scenes, outtakes. I love Happy Gilmore, and I'm really, really happy to own this release. If you're a fan, I don't think you'll be majorly disappointed. That is my show. Lots of releases that I've talked about. I hope you found something you liked. If so, let me know in the comments what you like, what you hope I talk about on a future episode. Make sure you share this with anyone that you think might be interested in any of these titles or just loves physical media in general. I love whenever you like this video, share it around, and get just new people involved. I have a lot of fun with this. I love doing this for you every week, and I love that you join me. So thank you so much for tuning in. I will be back again next week, but until that time, enjoy these movies.
Hello, Doctor. Why are you doing this?
I have been witness to a world consumed by hatred and bent on self-destruction. Watched as we have taken what was to be a paradise and failed in our responsibilities as its steward. I know now that the course the human race has set for itself cannot be changed. I am the last desperate chance for a doomed planet. Now leave this place, old girl.